Let's go live to Ukraine, where our Sarah Williamson is on the ground with the very latest. Sarah.
Yes, hi, Kilmany. Just this hour, I just want to bring you some quick breaking news that we've had just coming out just moments ago, that the next round of talks between Russia and Ukraine has been announced for Monday. This is the third round. It has now been announced. We don't know what the location of those talks is going to be, but it was just announced within the last half an hour. So there will be more details unfolding in relation to that, and I will provide you with those details as they come to us. Now, here in Kyiv, the ceasefire, here in Kyiv, the curfew, has actually now just gone into place. It goes into effect at 8 p.m. every single night and is enforced until 7 a.m. every single morning. Now, this is to keep the civilians in the areas safe, as every single night from 8 p.m. we hear heavy ceasefire violations that really pummel the areas here. Now, we've already heard them throughout the evening here. We've heard air raid sirens going off earlier, and we could hear large explosions off to the left of me, as well as some small arms fire on the ground here as well. Now, we're in day 10, and the Russian troops still haven't managed to break Kyiv yet. This is their main goal, but they haven't managed to get into this city, but they are still trying to attack it from the outside. So there is a lot of cruise and ballistic missile fire that are making their way into the city, and we will be bracing for a heavy night ahead of us.
All right, Sarah, we appreciate your detailed reporting on the ground there in Kyiv. Let's turn now to retired Major General Paul Vallely for more analysis on the war in Ukraine. Great to have you with us. You know, Russian forces announced a ceasefire in 2 regions for humanitarian reasons, but there are also reports that troops on the ground are not respecting it. Did Russia have any intention of abiding by this?
No, I don't think they did. I think it was a way to really delay some decision-making on their part, because they know tactically that 40-mile convoy headed west to Kyiv has been bogged down, which is a really poor tactical mistake on the part of the Russian generals. And so you have activity from the south to take Odessa right now. And no, they're not going to abide by any ceasefire agreements, other than they'll talk probably on Monday, but I'm not sure we're going to see any positive results from that.
How will the fight be different once we enter the urban combat phase of this conflict?
Urban warfare is the most difficult and most complex warfare that you can do. You can't depend on your air superiority or even artillery, other than putting it out in front of a moving, advancing ground force. So I think from that standpoint, what's going to happen here, again, we're in day 10, and unless that convoy can start moving on the ground, they're going to continue to be bogged down.
Yeah. What do you expect to see next once the Russians encircle these cities?
Well, as they move from east to west and from the Baltic through Odessa, from the top from the Belarus through Chernobyl, they're trying an encirclement, but they don't have the western part of Ukraine secure in any way for any kind of offensive operation. That's why we see the convoys going to and from Poland, people going back and forth, supplies coming in and so on. But an interesting thing, though, when you look at that convoy again, the Special Operations Forces are attacking those mobile vehicles, armored vehicles with Stingers. And they've been trained by our own Special Forces, by the way. So there's a lot of dynamics going on in and around Kyiv at this particular time.
Ukraine's president has been repeatedly asking for a no-fly zone, but how big of a difference do you think that would make? It seems that most of the destruction is being caused by the ground weapons like artillery and missiles. How do you think a no-fly zone would change that?
Yeah, it's interesting that we haven't seen more air power by the Russians, but we certainly don't want to see a no-fly zone up there, because once that occurs, if in fact even the Russian air controlling that airspace to some degree is going to create a conflict between the NATO fighters that may be coming into that airspace, and then this war turns then to a NATO versus Russia with U.S. heavily involved. And from our standpoint, we do not want to do that at this time, because that elevates the war into a whole different dimension.
Yeah. Major General, how does this end?
Great question. Everybody's asking that question. We don't know at this time. Russia's out to wreck Ukraine and take control and put their own puppet government in. There's no doubt about that. They have to continue to talk. And I know under President Trump, this would have never occurred. He would have met with Putin. They would have worked it out. But at this point in time, it's not looking good for negotiations. It looks like Putin is dedicated to take control of Ukraine and to, again, put in his own people to run that government. Yeah. So that's the way it is at this time. We have to be realistic about it.
How long do you think Russians can keep up this slow push that we're seeing right now?
They can probably keep it up for quite a while. They have a lot of reserve forces, evidently, that are being moved from different parts of Russia into the Ukraine or being held as reserve. So they have plenty of vehicles, plenty of armed forces, infantry, artillery, missile forces, and many of those still haven't been used yet. And as we see, they're bogged down on that convoy. We don't know how many Russians are involved there in support of that whole operation. But when you take a 40-mile-long convoy, that takes a lot of support, logistical support. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see.
One quick one before we go. How do Ukrainians counter this at this moment?
They continue to fight. We have to continue to support them with Stinger missiles and other types of weapons that they can destroy the ground forces of the Russians. And so Zelensky's keeping the morale up. There's no doubt about that. On all the interviews, the patriots there in Ukraine, they want to protect and they want to defend their country, and they're going to continue to fight to do that. At some point in time, though, with overwhelming forces, Putin lays down across Ukraine. Then at that point in time, Ukraine will be basically in a surrender situation.
All right, retired.
But that's going to take on a lot of different warfare that we can see in the future, particularly in the outer areas of Ukraine. They're not going to stop. They'll still have their arms. And you have what we call guerrilla warfare will continue to go on for quite a while.
Retired Major General Paul Vallely, we really appreciate your expertise and analysis and summing up what we're seeing.